So I got to give a shout out to the Funcom team over on Dune Awakening because in the recent newsletter that went out a couple of days ago, they've got a quote from me where I was talking about the lore of the game, and that's from my previous video where I was talking about the Dune Awakening experience. And one of the things that I've enjoyed the most so far has been the attention to detail when it comes to the lore. And I want to expound upon that a little bit more in today's video because I think that's one of the really unique aspects of the Dune Awakening experience is the fact that it's Dune. If you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know that there are two games in particular that I have played over the years that have more videos than any other playlist here on the channel, and that's Star Wars: The Old Republic and Lord of the Rings Online. And one of the reasons I've enjoyed those two games so much over the years, even though they are completely different games, those are much more like story-based, narrative-driven RPGs as opposed to Dune Awakening, which is more of a crafting survival. I don't want to say life sim, but it definitely has elements at play here. Joel has been out there talking about how this is not a narrative RPG in the same way a lot of other games are, but it still does have that aspect of being based on a massive intellectual property that has decades of lore behind it. And there are little things in the game that have really drawn me in and helped me to feel like I'm on Arrakis and that I'm in the Dune world. It's really easy when you look at something, it's like, oh, that's Middle Earth or that's Star Wars. There are certain things that brand an intellectual property, and it's the same thing here, whether it's the sandworms on Arrakis or whether it's spice and the way that works in this universe. There are things that are unique to Dune, and though it's the little things that really help you immerse into the game world. So the snippet that I talked about in the previous video, which is what they pulled out, which is what the Funcom team put into the newsletter for Dune Awakening the other day, was specifically talking about the shields. And personal shields are something where in the Dune universe, you can't shoot people with lasers because of shields. There's atomic explosions that happen, nuclear reactions. It's you can't do that. So everything, whether it's the David Lynch version or the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation or the more recent Denis adaptations, when it comes to the portrayal of shields, it's always about helping to have that visual element to explain to people that the slow blade pierces, right? And this is something that Paul has to learn from a very early age, and it's all, this is core to the melee training of characters. And while of course, the game is currently in closed beta and there's still changes that will be happening leading up to launch, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most and one of the things that I've had the most time exploring, the immersion into the world of Dune and the little details like the slow blade pierces. And it's cool because when you first see this happen, there is this audio and visual cue of why the slow blade pierces and how that works to penetrate the shield and to take out an enemy. And from a lore perspective, if you're someone who's grown up reading the books and you've seen all the adaptations on film, it's so satisfying to hold in your hand the slow blade and to hear that visual or hear the audio element, excuse me, when it's piercing the shield and it's like you watch your enemy go down and it's like, yes, they captured that so well. But that's just one of many little elements when it comes to immersing yourself in Arrakis and really feeling like you're part of the Dune world. And I know it's way too early to talk about, what are the plans for this beyond, just the planet of Arrakis, because when it comes to Dune, there's a lot more than just one planet at play. And I don't want to get too far off the beaten path here with what could potentially come down the road, because I mostly want to focus on the experience of the game so far. But that's one of the things that really, drives me, is seeing those little things. And whether it's the fact that everything on Arrakis wants to kill you, that was something I was a little nervous about, before I sunk my teeth in, was, how are they going to capture that aspect of the game without having it feel tedious or too hardcore. Because if you've been around my channel for any length of time, I don't play a lot of like Dark Souls games or things like that because I don't like hardcore games that much. But I can say, I'm gonna take a drink of my coffee here, that like from the first moment you're on Arrakis, from literally the very first steps you take, you're learning that the planet wants to kill you. And so there's things like, oh, water is important. Okay, that's important in many other games. Why is it important here? Well, obviously you need water to, hydrate, but it's more than that because when you go from initially getting water from plants and then stumbling out into the sunlight for the first time and realizing that, oh my god, the sun's going to kill me, and oh my god, wait a second, there's actually a element here at play in the survival where there's actually the sun beating down on you and you've got to stick to the shade or travel at night, and if you don't, there's things like dehydration and overexposure to the sun, which are part of the gameplay experience because this is Arrakis. This is unique to the planet of Dune, right? And that those elements, and then the first time you see this sandworm, that's really intense. But then beyond that is the little things like the shields and needing to use a slow blade to pierce the shield. But then the act of like crafting your first still suit, getting your hands on your first still suit, and putting it on and realizing that, oh, I can finally, like, water is still important, but I can actually survive the sands of Arrakis from here. And then beyond that, even though, and this is the really interesting thing, I don't want to spoil too much of the story here. And again, some of this, subject to change because it's in closed beta right now and everything else. But quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. I've talked about this before. They are doing an alternative timeline here with Dune Awakening where they are exploring the what if of Paul having these multiple visions of, there's what happened in the book, and then the book specifically and explicitly states that Paul has millions of visions while he's in the spice streams. And so this is the what if of what happened in one of these alternate universes. So there's also at play here, the Fremen are here, and that's, but it's a different storyline. Lady Jessica is here, you know, the Harkonnen are here, the Atreides are here, the Emperor is here. All of that is at play, but it's a different timeline. And that's one of the coolest things to me because when you have the flexibility to play within the given and existing lore, this is when I look at games like Lord of the Rings Online does a really good job of this because they have the books as the driving force of saying this is the storyline of Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin and Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas and Gandalf and Boromir and the journey of the Fellowship from the Shire all the way to Mount Doom. That's an existing storyline that we know that takes place, but you can spin a story around that using the ties that bind the existing lore. And to make it work, though, you have to be faithful to the lore of the existing intellectual property. You can't just go off and, have, as an example, you can't have Wookiees in Lord of the Rings because it just doesn't make sense to have Wookiees in Lord of the Rings. But you can have your own unique version of, say, maybe some goblins or some orcs that have ties to existing lore. And I think that's one of the really cool things here of sinking your teeth into Dune Awakening and going out and exploring Arrakis is that there are many familiar elements at play, like the shields and the still suits and the Fremen and all of these factions that we know and love from the books and the various film adaptations. But there's also the unknown of realizing that we're in a unique version of Paul's visions, and there's a lot that we can do within that vision and a lot that we can explore while still staying true to the core lore of the Dune IP. I've been having a lot of fun. Hopefully, you're going to have as much fun as I'm having. I'll, of course, be continuing to cover the game in the coming weeks and months as we go beyond closed beta into the launch. We still don't have a launch date yet. It's coming. We'll know soon. Just stick around. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update as I continue to cover this game and, of course, other things. Daily streams happen at 6 a.m. Central Time. Love to hear your thoughts on what you've seen coming out of Dune Awakening so far because, of course, the embargo's down now. The NDAs are still in place, but we can actually talk about things now, which is really cool. So there's a ton of content coming out from a lot of different content creators. So I'd love to hear what you've been seeing. What are some of the questions that you have? If I can answer those things, I will. Drop those down in the comments below. Don't forget to tune into the next stream. And if you want to know more about the game, hop on over to their Steam page, wishlist it, go join their Discord. There's a ton of information. The devs are super active over there. And I'll see everybody in the next one. Stay safe out there, everybody. Happy gaming.